The White House just made it official. The Clarity Act is real, it is happening, and if you understand what this means for crypto, and especially for XRP, you need to be paying very close attention right now. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications, because what we are about to break down is not hype, it is not speculation, it is policy that just became official, and it is about to change everything. Welcome to Wealth Chain Network. My job today is to walk you through what the Clarity Act actually is, what the White House just made official, why this matters for the entire crypto market, and what it specifically means for XRP holders who have been waiting years for exactly this kind of regulatory breakthrough. This is not a drill. This is not rumor. This is official policy coming from the highest level of government, and the implications are enormous. Before we go any further, I need to be completely transparent with you. Everything on this channel is for informational and educational purposes only. Wealth Chain Network does not provide financial advice. Nothing in this video constitutes a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold any asset. Cryptocurrency markets are highly volatile. You can lose money. You should always do your own research and consult with a qualified financial professional before making any investment decisions. We are here to inform you and help you think clearly, not to tell you what to do with your capital. Now, let us talk about what just became official and why it is one of the most significant developments in the history of digital assets in the United States. The Clarity Act is legislation that has been discussed, debated, and lobbied for over the last several years by everyone in the crypto industry who understood that the single biggest barrier to mainstream adoption was not technology, it was not consumer interest, it was regulatory uncertainty. For years, crypto projects in the United States operated in a legal gray zone where nobody knew for certain whether a particular token was going to be classified as a security, a commodity, a currency, or something else entirely. That uncertainty made institutions hesitant. It made exchanges cautious. It made developers nervous about building in the US. And it created an environment where the rest of the world was moving faster than the United States on digital asset innovation, because other countries were willing to provide the regulatory clarity that the US was not. The Clarity Act changes that. What the White House just made official is that this legislation is moving forward with full executive support. That means it is not just a bill sitting in committee somewhere. It is not just a proposal that might or might not happen. It is policy that has the backing of the administration, and when the White House backs something, the likelihood of it becoming law increases dramatically. So what does the Clarity Act actually do? Let me walk through the specifics, because the specifics are what matter here. The Clarity Act establishes a clear framework for how digital assets are classified under U.S. law. It creates definitions that separate securities from commodities from currencies in a way that is specific, enforceable, and not subject to the kind of ambiguous interpretation that has plagued this industry for the last decade. It assigns clear regulatory authority to the appropriate agencies: the SEC for securities, the CFTC for commodities, FinCEN for currency-related matters. And it does so in a way that removes the overlap and the turf battles that have created so much confusion. The Act also provides safe harbor provisions for projects that meet certain criteria. If a project is sufficiently decentralized, if it is not being controlled by a single entity, if it meets transparency and disclosure requirements, it gets classified in a way that gives it regulatory certainty without subjecting it to the full weight of securities law. That is massive. That is the thing that projects like XRP have been arguing for since the beginning. The recognition that not every digital asset is a security just because it was sold by a company at some point in its history. For XRP specifically, the implications are clear and immediate. XRP has already been through the regulatory gauntlet. It fought the SEC lawsuit. It won enough of that fight to establish that XRP itself is not a security when sold on secondary markets. But there was still ambiguity around other aspects of how XRP could be used, how it could be marketed, how institutions could integrate it without fear of stepping on a regulatory landmine. The Clarity Act removes that ambiguity. It provides the framework that allows XRP to operate as a legitimate digital asset with clear regulatory status, clear oversight, and clear rules of the road. That is what the market has been waiting for. Not a perfect outcome. Not a situation where there is no regulation, but a situation where the regulation is clear, predictable, and fair. And that is what the Clarity Act delivers. Now, the White House making this official is not the same thing as the bill being signed into law. There is still a legislative process. There are still committee votes and floor debates and all the machinery of how laws actually get made in Washington. But the White House backing it publicly changes the dynamics significantly. It signals to Congress that this is a priority. It signals to regulators that they need to prepare for this framework to be implemented. And it signals to the market that the United States is serious about creating an environment where digital asset innovation can happen domestically rather than being pushed offshore. The timing of this is also important, and I want you to think about why this is happening now. The US has spent the last several years watching other countries move aggressively into digital asset regulation and infrastructure. The European Union passed MiCA, which is a comprehensive regulatory framework for crypto. Dubai and Singapore have created free zones specifically designed to attract crypto companies. China has a central bank digital currency that is already being used in pilot programs. And the US, which has historically been the center of financial innovation, has been falling behind because it could not get its regulatory house in order. The Clarity Act is the US government's way of catching up. It is the recognition that if the US does not provide regulatory clarity now, the digital asset industry is going to continue developing in jurisdictions that are more welcoming, and the US is going to lose influence over a sector that is going to be worth trillions of dollars over the next decade. The White House understands this. Congress understands this. And the fact that they are now moving forward with official support for this legislation tells you that the political calculus has shifted. The question is no longer whether the US should regulate crypto. The question is how to regulate it in a way that keeps innovation and capital inside US borders. For the broader crypto market, the Clarity Act becoming official is a game changer. It is the kind of policy shift that unlocks institutional capital that has been sitting on the sidelines waiting for exactly this kind of regulatory certainty. Pension funds, endowments, insurance companies, asset managers. These institutions manage trillions of dollars, but they cannot move that capital into an asset class that does not have clear regulatory status. The Clarity Act gives them that status. And when institutional capital starts flowing into crypto in meaningful amounts, the price dynamics change fundamentally. This is not about retail speculation anymore. This is not about people on social media pumping coins based on memes and narratives. This is about real capital from real institutions making allocation decisions based on fundamentals, risk-adjusted returns, and regulatory compliance. And that kind of capital moves markets in ways that are sustained, structural, and significant. The phrase parabolic gets thrown around a lot in crypto, and most of the time it is hyperbole. Most of the time it is people trying to create excitement about a price move that is not supported by underlying fundamentals. But in this case, I think the word is appropriate. Not because the Clarity Act guarantees that prices go straight up tomorrow, but because it removes the single biggest structural barrier that has been preventing crypto from reaching its full market potential. And when you remove a structural barrier of that magnitude, when you unlock access to institutional capital that has been waiting for years, the trajectory changes. It does not happen all at once. It is not a straight line, but the direction is clear and the magnitude is significant. For XRP holders specifically, this is the moment you have been waiting for. Not because XRP is suddenly going to become the only crypto that matters, but because XRP has been uniquely positioned to benefit from regulatory clarity. It has real utility in cross-border payments. It has a company behind it, Ripple,